forced a lot of stuff in. I mean, everything just kind of came, but we were smart enough when something came along that we could capitalize on.
Yeah.
You know, that's funny, and I hate interjecting myself into this narrative at all, but just to kind of give a little bit of context, I was a Galloway P1 because he was on at nights, and that was the optimum pizza driving time. So I wanted to hear baseball talk and cowboy talk, and that's where you got if you lived in Dallas at that time and you wanted to hear sports talk, it was Randy.
And it was at 6 o'clock at night,
too.
too.
Yes. It's when people need their pepperoni pizzas for dinner, and I was more than happy to oblige them. And oftentimes drive around their house a few times to wait for the segment to finish. So when the ticket came on, it seemed to me for about the first 6 months, which is kind of contradictory to the reason you wanted to start this radio station, was because in the back of the bus, in the back of the press box, you guys are cracking each other up and making each other laugh and doing this kind of organic buffoonery mixed in with talking about sports. But when you guys first went on the air, it seemed like it was pretty straight ahead.
It was
sports talk, and I believe that's kind of what management wanted you guys to be. And I didn't like it at first, and you know why? Because I was brand committed to Galloway. So when these new guys are coming on that I'd never heard of, really, are doing this sports talk thing, I'm like, no way, I'm listening to them. But then after some time happened, and you guys got your sea legs, I realized what attracted me to the station, and I will throw this back to you guys because I think you were about to go into this, is when you started talking the organic evolution of what y'all were doing is when you started bringing in elements of your own personal lives into the content of talking sports. And I believe it might have been you talking about the trepidation you had of sending your daughter to her first day of school. Because what that was to me at the time was relatable. There is something relatable to what you were talking about. I connected with that outside of hearing good opinions on the Rangers and, wild-ass comments from Grego or whatever the chemistry was in the sports world. When you started doing that and bringing your own lives into the station, that's when it became something incredibly unique and often mimicked, often copied, but, never duplicated for sure.
Well, when we first started out, or prior to us actually starting out, I was a complete, total, 100% acolyte of Howard Stern, of the great Howard Stern. And to me, doing stuff like that seemed like something he would do,
Yeah.
And, people had told me that you can't do sports all the time. And at first, I believed that you could. I thought they were wrong. That I believed that you could. But then the more I thought about it and the more I thought about him, I started thinking of things that we could tell, or just ideas and concepts of his that we could take, that we could borrow from. And doing something like that was one of them.
So, Grego, when you guys, let's say the first time that you had a segment like that wasn't, recapping the Cowboys or talking about what the Rangers did the night before, and you did something that was unrelated to sports, and you had this chemistry, this unique content, was there a point where you kind of, as the segment ended, you kind of went back and went, Eureka, we're on to something? I
don't think I ever had a Eureka moment,
yeah.
but when we'd go out and see, that was one of the best things we did at the ticket. I mean, we got out with the people. And, I'd go out and somebody would come up and they'd talk about something that I said on the air that had nothing to do with sports. And I'm like, well, what about when I broke down that 4-3 defense and talked about how good that was? And
you never heard a thing about that, did you?
No. And
Same here.
I would pour over everything and have all this sports knowledge just ready to drop on somebody. But if I talked about somebody cutting me off in traffic, that's it. That's 2 segments.
Yeah.
I'm taking off.
It's crazy.
You remember this, don't you? You remember this, Sotero.
So it was never but wow, that's what we do. But it didn't take long for it to, kick in. I'll never forget one of our first big wins. I'm going to call it a win because we were in constant war with the consultants.
Sure.
Was when and Rhynes, I bet you remember this, when we went the first 10 minutes without taking a phone call.
10 minutes?
Yep.
Yeah.
We went a whole.
Before he retired, we went 10 years without taking a phone.
And you know what? That's too soon, too.
But yes, there were the management of the station had a consultant up there who I absolutely hated, and he was just always up their ass to get rid of me, so he could have control over the station, get the guys doing this the way he thought it should be done, and he knew nothing about sports talk, nothing about it, nothing about talk radio nothing about anything really.
I got to interject a couple things here. Two of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
Ever. You know where I'm going, Rhynes.
I think
We were in a meeting.
Okay.
And this consultant handed out stuff.
Like
so-
rubbers or?
Yeah,
No, not like
rubbers.
rubber.
Yeah, rubbers.
he would have handouts.
He would have handouts.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
So he hands out everything, and everybody, they get it, and they're looking at it, and they're looking
This
at
is
it.
advice from him.
Oh, okay.
And so we're going to have to do this.
All right. You're Rhynes.
Right,
Acting.
right.
I'm
So-
consultant.
Yeah,
Play acting.
yeah, go there.
All right, here you go, Rhynes. Here's some. Oh, all right, okay. And he threw it right back at him and walked off, huh?
He didn't throw it at him, but he dropped
Kind
it.
of dropped
So
it.
Yeah,
receive
yeah.
the piece of paper and crumple it in one
In
maneuver.
one
Yeah,
fell
and
swoop.
without looking at
That's
it.
impressive.
I mean, he just handed it, and Roger threw it. And another time
You
was
do that, Mike?
This is all true.
And then there was another time, not too far from here, at the Grand Kapinski, when the consultant was there and goes up to Reiner to shake his hand, and Reiner just goes
Folded his arms.
and looked at him.
Wow.
And I was standing right there, and I'm like, "Oh," I just shrunk down to 1 inch tall and ran out of there.
I was at a Christmas party or something.
Christmas
wasn't
party,
it?
yeah, Christmas party at the Grand Kapinski.
I'm going to do that to Patrick in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
See what happens.
But that was that crumpled up that paper. That was an all timer.
It was a different time, wasn't it, Mike?
Different time.
Mike softened a lot. I don't know if you know this. He
Have
softened
ya?
a lot in his
I don't know.
Twilight years.
You know what? It's
I
obvious.
don't see myself.
See, it's obvious he softened because I'm here.
Well, I don't know about that. Yeah, he softened a long time ago. I saw a real change in him about 15 years ago, and probably unrelated to what happened with you guys. But I think there was a time that Mike went. He look. People will tell you to this day when they first met Mike that they were intimidated by him. I mean,
yeah.
you would probably say the same thing to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell Greg. I've told it many times. But my first interaction with Mike is, I was scared S-less of him, and we went to spring training one year, and by who knows how, we got assigned as roommates, Mike and I.
You ever heard this story?
No.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, so 2 double beds, and Mike Reiner and I are roommates. I'm the lowest on the totem
So
pole.
Norm
at the
had his
ticket.
own. What happened was Norm had his own room. They got 3 hotel rooms.
Well, how the hell did that happen? Norm get
Because
his own
it's
room.
Norm,
who
because he's
knows?
100 and wants his own room. Demanded it, probably paid
I wouldn't
extra.
have put up with
I
that.
know we didn't pay extra for it, but it was probably Corby and me that had roomed together for years, and then Mike, and then rather than rooming with Norm, they put you with Mike.
Yeah,
and
put
then
me
Norm
with
had his own
Reiner,
room.
and
That's-
he sometime in the first half hour or something, he goes, "Tell you what, we're gonna be fine," something like that. Just don't talk to me. I'm like, all right, that's pretty clear and easy directions that I certainly can follow. I can follow directions to that level. So, we spent a couple days, I got my laptop. I listened, working on audio for my show, like no problem. And we were cordial. It was like, how you doing? It wasn't like silence, but it was never any conversation and never kicking anything around. And I think he eventually, after 3 days or so, was so impressed with me and my ability to follow the rules. We're laying in bed like that third night, obviously separate beds, the lights are dim. He's reading, I'm reading. And I just
And I jumped in his and canoodled
Yes,
with
and
him.
he jumped in, made me the little spoon. No, he snaps his head over and goes, "Hey," and I snap my head over. I'm like, "This is odd." I'm like, "Yeah, hey, what's up, Mike?" He goes, "Hey, you can talk to me."
You can talk to me.
So I go, "All right, man, cool, thank you." I didn't have anything for you right then, but
Well, see, you're better than me because I roomed with Ron for 14 years, and he never let me talk. I never got the you can talk now.
it only took me 3 days, I guess, of adhering to the rules. But I can't speak to
I'd
him.
like to say that's not true, but it is true to the letter.
Now, when you went in, did Ronner prepare the chamber?
I'm glad I don't know what the hell that means.
Just get things ready.
That's where you.
Draw the curtains,
no
get
matter
the,
what, draw
get
the
temp
curtains.
right and everything.
And turn the air conditioner on.
Yeah,
as
just get
low
everything
as
right
it
in
will
there.
go.
All right, here, one thing we can do real quick. We're going to do it later. We got this thing laid out a little bit. We were talking about the beginning and good times, and that's awesome. We are going to talk about the end and, not so good times.
I'm not going to harp on it forever.
No, but,
just
it
touch on
needs to be
briefly.
addressed if we're doing this thing. And then around 5 o'clock, I'm going to talk best memories, pranks, that sort of thing. But only because you mentioned hotel rooms, I figured we could do one right here because the story came up a week or so ago on our show. And I want to hear your perspective of the alarm clock saga.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me?
We heard Mike's take on it, if you don't mind.
I've never admitted this, but I'm going to admit it now.
Oh,
I've
boy.
never admitted it. That's the greatest prank ever.
It's a good one.
It's the greatest prank ever.
It's the prank that keeps on pranking throughout the night.
Yeah.
Boy, it sure did.
Yeah, and
Man.
you know why this came up is because of Christine McVie passed away. And you
Yeah.
remember the song that cranked up at 5:30 in the morning on the giant clock radio that was taped up underneath the sink was "Tell Me Lies."
Yeah,
Tell
Little
me
Lies.
Sweet Little Lies
by Fleetwood Mac,
Tell me,
which was
tell
one
me.
of her songs.
Yeah.
Oh, it's never.
And to this day, every time I hear that song, they start that song, and for about 2 or 3 seconds, I just cringe.
He did it right there when it started. He stood up a little
But
bit.
it was so weird because I could sleep through a freight train. And so Rhynes kind of woke me up. He goes, man, what is that?
Set it up real quick. Somebody give me a 30-second setup
Okay,
for people who don't know
the
it.
setup is when Mike and Greg were off to watch the Rangers play at probably a noon or 1 o'clock first pitch spring training game in Port Charlotte, Florida. Corby and I gained access to their room, and Rob Chickering, our on-site engineer at the time, went and bought, I think it was 11 alarm clocks, 10 of them these small battery-operated digital ones, and we set them starting at I think about 2:30 or 3 in the morning to go off every 15 minutes and hid them around their room
And
taped to the top of a ceiling fan, behind the TV, under the bed, behind the headboard,
Underneath
in
the sink.
in a drawer under the sink. And we had them go off. I think there was 10 of them, so they probably went off for 2.5 hours. So it was supposed to end at like 4:30. But the atomic bomb was this big clock radio that had a loud ass woofer speaker on it, and we found this classic rock station and cranked it to 10 and set the radio to be the alarm and duct taped that up underneath this sink that they would have never found it had it not gone off. And that's how it started. So at like 2:30 or 3 in the morning, the first alarm goes off.
Go ahead,
Like, what
Hammer,
the
what
hell's
happened
going
there?
on? And
those
then
piercing sounds. Yes, yeah. And Ryan's was like, what is this? I said, is it a fire alarm? I'm
you
like, I don't
smoking?
know, man. Where'd it come from? So you start trying to listen where it is, and you're coming out of a fog of sleep. You can't find it. And we found one, and we're like, okay, we found that son of a
Those
bitch
bastards.
now. Okay, all right,
We got
go
it.
over here. All right, Ron, just go back to sleep. Beep, beep, beep. Where's this one? So then we start going on again.
Yeah, so about the third one, you realize this is going on all night, so they destroy the room trying to find.
Destroyed.
Missed a couple, so you think you're in the clear, and then maybe an hour later, one goes off. Oh, crap, how'd they hide it there? And then finally, you get the false sense of security that after an hour of silence and total deep relaxation, sleep, that's when the big bomb went off with Fleetwood Mac at 5:30
Christine
in the
McVie
morning.
had the last word.
Yeah, she did. Now, the thing you don't know about Mikey was the bully revenge prank by Grego. So Corby and I went out the next night to karaoke or something, and we typically would be out pretty late. So I think we rolled in probably at about 2:15, and we walked into our room, and we looked around, and we both, man, something does not feel right about this. And I looked at my bed, and I realized it had been either sat on, because the cleaning people came in and, they straightened everything up every morning. And I looked at the bed, and it just didn't look right. And I pulled back that cheap-ass blanket and to reveal assorted raw seafood. Because Grego had gone to whatever H-E-B there in Florida.
The fish market.
And bought like $38 worth of shrimp and,
Did you,
and
Greg?
cod.
Oh, yeah.
You went to a fish market
mussels.
specifically to
And bought all of this raw fish and put it in me and Corby's bed.
And I told Rhynes, I told Rhynes, I said, man, I'm going to get those son of a bitches. You stay here. and he stayed at the game, so I left during the game.
Yeah.
And went back, and I didn't know how I was going to get in, so I do what you need to do. I threaten the maid. And so
Violence.
the maid was rolling down there. I go, I need to get in my room. Oh, you need to go to the office. I go, no, I don't need to go to the office. Open that door right now. I can't, sir. Open the door.
Good Lord.
She opened it.
Yeah.
And that's what
As you have a cooler full of mollusks and
Yeah, I mean, it was
shrimp
everything. Everything.
You know what? I think I did have the fish.
He had all of it. He had all of it. So all we did is just ripped off the fitted sheet and went and got new linens and put them on our bed. And then we took all of their seafood, and those exterior
AC units?
AC units and
Yeah,
heaters. It's
yeah.
kind of the combo platter. You have those vents on there, so they're asleep, and we just like crammed all of the fish into their air conditioners, so they've got to sleep all night with fish AC. But yeah, that was one of a million pranks that we did on each other back in the day.
All right, this is the Downbeat. We're live at the